All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the second episode of the AI First CEO podcast. Today's guest is someone I've been wanting to bring on for a while, not just because she is brilliant at what she does, but because the way she thinks about communication, clarity, and conversion is just incredibly relevant in this new AI first world, which is what you guys know the show is about. So I'm joined today by Sherry Otto, and Sherry is a top tier copy strategist who has advised multiple brands. But what sets her apart isn't just the results, it's her ability to turn a messy message into one that moves, which is very few people, as you guys know, can do today. She has this rare superpower, helping businesses say what they really mean in a way that resonates, converts, and actually feels human. So on this show, we talk a lot about automation and scaling with AI, but none of them matters if your message is off, right? AI can only amplify what you've already built. And if the foundation is fuzzy, you and I both know that AI will just scale the noise. So that's why I'm so excited to have Sherry here today. We've been working together for a few months now, and it's exciting because I get to have her opinion upfront and loud and clear. And because if you want to build systems that convert, you need clear, compelling human messaging at the core. And Sherry is one of the best in the business at helping founders get there. So Sherry, welcome to the show. I'm so excited and I cannot wait about all the things we're going to talk about.
Artie, I'm so flattered. Thank you. You're so kind. And I'm excited about this show, what you're doing in the AI space, how you're helping CEOs to really scale. And I love your perspective on how scaling with human approach is something that really goes well together. So this is exciting. And this is just going to continue to expand, grow, and help more people. So happy to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're very excited. All right. So let's jump right in. So your whole approach sits at this intersection of clarity, psychology, and systems, which I know when we work together, we talk about this a lot. And that's exactly why I wanted you on this show, because so many founders are chasing automation, as you and I both know, but very few are thinking about how to make those systems actually connect. So let's start with this. We've got more tools than ever, right? There's this buzz around, there's a new cool kid every single day in the market. But most people are still struggling to convert leads. From your perspective, and I want to hear from your side of the stories, where is the real gap here? Is it automation, the tools, less about automation, more about interpretation? That's where I want to start with, and I want everybody to listen to your take on it.
Absolutely. Well, I think you kind of laid the foundation when you mentioned that there's tools everywhere. So the gap comes in play when we feel like we need to adopt and bring on and onboard all of these new tools that are coming in. And we don't have a foundational strategy to lay these tools on top. So a lot of folks are thinking automation first and strategy second, which is backwards. And so if we begin to think through the mind of the user and the problems that the business has, and you talk about a lot of this, Artie, is just what's the core problem and how do we actually move the needle when it comes to bringing your contacts closer to a buying decision. If you start from the human approach, then you layer on, okay, this is the strategy. Here's the rationale behind why we choose this as the strategy. Here are a few tactics underneath the strategy that will support it. And now what can help us make it efficient and scale it? What AI tools are going to help us do what we need to do most efficiently for the resources we have internally, the audience that we have, the industry that we're in, and every company is really different. So it's important to really take a step back before you bring in the automation, the tools, and the AI. And that's how you really create a growth engine that allows you to be sustainable, to be defensible, and to really serve your clients at the highest level without things falling through the cracks. So that's where I would say we should start. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I really like that approach. And based on your previous experience and all the people and the solopreneurs or the brands you have helped, what has been one takeaway that's stood out most to you? I want to hear a little bit on that.
Yeah. So working with clients who are kind of scaling up in their B2B companies, they've got small marketing teams, they've got maybe one or two people on the sales team, they've got a head of growth, they've got someone who is over operations. They're trying to figure out what's the best way to drive demand. And what I'm seeing is that they are going after the top of funnel cold leads that haven't had the ability or the opportunity to really get to know, like, and trust the brand. So there's a couple like cracks in the funnel when it comes to how we think about acquisition, nurture, and conversion, or, awareness, interest, and decision. So when we think about it in those phases, and I like to call them jobs to be done by the customer, if we're able to break it down systematically like that and know that a cold lead typically doesn't want to enter into a 1 hour webinar with you and they've never heard of you before. So, and when you're giving a conversion pitch at the end of your 1 hour webinar, by the way, 1 hour is too long. So when you're giving your pitch and you're saying, hey, if you need us, we're here to help you, that's not a conversion strategy. I call that a hand wave. So there's a lot of areas in our funnel. So I just gave you an example of bottom of the funnel, like a miss on the message, and also the funnel strategy where a cold lead might need to have something more warm so that you can nurture them and they can get value first. I think when I've worked with clients, they're not quite sure what the value definition is. What does that middle of the funnel piece look like? And how can they create that with AI to repurpose something really powerful for their customer, for their contacts internally? And the other thing on top of that is we don't quite know which pieces of middle of the funnel content or which pieces of nurture content should we give them, and then what message ties to that. So there's a lot of nuance there, and we're not sure how to do it because we're so focused on our own metrics. We've got to drive, I've seen this so much, Artie. We've got to drive 10 leads on a sales call every single week. I've heard that. Okay. And they skip all like logical, like customer journey processes because we've got to do our numbers. So when you're very numbers focused, you're caring about your own metrics, then you skip out on really asking yourself the question, what do my customer need? What does my customer need at the moment of their behavior or their action that they just took, so that we can continue funneling more folks along that path? And some people do skip steps. They can go, and that's great as well. But we've got to switch it and become a little bit more customer focused versus company focused on what we need to do to like make our numbers, to make our stakeholders happy and things like that.
Yeah. And there are so many golden nuggets because as you were talking, I had all these ideas in my head and I wanted to double click on maybe 10 of them. But I know we don't have that kind of time, but I want to double click on something you said. When people skip the portion of the nurture sequence, so think about someone where you exposed top of the funnel content and they were cold to you. That's how they entered your ecosystem. And then when you convert them and you have that opportunity where you show them the bottom of the funnel content. But what happens, the transformation actually happens in the middle when you expose them to the mofu. And that's where you really, once you have that attention via tofu, that's where you're really nurturing with all the middle of the content that you're showing them. And at the bottom of the funnel, you show them the case studies and whatnot, the transformation. And that's when they want to get on a call with you so you can convert. And that's where those CTAs work. So it's so important. And I love how you do that in your sequences and how you map that journey out with your prospects and before you take them to conversion. And that actually is a really good segue to the next question I want to ask you is everybody talks about lead nurturing like it's a checklist. You send some emails, you add a webinar, which by the way, the thing that Sherry said about webinars, you have to go follow her on LinkedIn so you can actually see how she crushes in webinars when she runs them on LinkedIn. I'm a huge fan, but just throwing it out there, anybody who doesn't follow Sherry Otto on LinkedIn, you guys should do that right now. So again, back to the topic, everyone talks about lead nurturing like it's a checklist. You send some emails, you add a webinar, maybe toss in a text or something. But In your view, where are most people actually losing the sale? What's broken in the way we handle that space between interest and conversion? I want everybody, I know you touched on that a little bit in the previous one, but I want you to expand on that topic just a little bit more.
Great question. And I really love this question. There's a couple of things that are so important that I'm just going to mention first off the bat. And one is the way you connect with your audience. And what's huge is that we need to connect with humans, especially in this deep era of AI. When you're giving any sort of middle of the funnel content and you're giving a webinar, you're giving a training, it can be anything. It can be a short YouTube video. You want to make sure that you are finding a way to connect. I like to do that through storytelling. There's something psychologically that happens to your brain when you tell a story. There's a phenomenon called neurocoupling, and the listener's brainwaves begins to sync with your brainwaves as you tell a story. And when that happens, that is the perfect time to persuade someone. So storytelling, relatability, and emotional resonance are the things that are going to make your nurture content help people to convert and follow your next step in the sales process. I love having a story right before a CTA. I love creating an emotional response right before the CTA. We need to figure out a way to not just list out your product and your features. We have to figure out a way. It's not about your company's mission and we're here to announce things. It's really going to be about, I see you and I bet you, I can tell that I understand you. And these are the problems that you've been dealing with. This keeps you up at night. And I'm here to help support you along this journey. How can I help you in the best way? I'm not going to shove something at you that you don't need, but based on these data points or based on some of the content I see that you're consuming, here's how I can help you. And that's what I call partnering in their pursuit. They're on a pursuit to solve some problem. You're here to help them do that in a scalable way, absolutely, but do that in a human way and make sure you definitely connect in an emotional way with your customer. Already, people who we buy based on emotion and then we later justify with logic. So deep nurturing connects with your audience. People like you and then they buy from you. They trust you and then they buy from you, and they know you, because if they don't know you, they can't buy from you. So those are the things I would say are so important inside, and it's only going to become more important as AI begins to scale and we're losing the connection, we're losing the human touch. Everything is sounding the same. We really need to tell more stories, be more relatable, open up. Guys, I'm calling everyone to be thought leaders. Come and share your perspective. It doesn't have to be right or wrong. It just has to be your point of view. Those are the things that are going to draw in your people. They're going to become hardcore fans of yours because you've opened up and you've related to them and you've proven that they could trust you with their huge problem that they're dealing with.
Absolutely. And you said that so eloquently. I actually want to double click on two things. Now, you guys see when I introduced Sherry, I said she sits on the intersection. When she talks about it, she talks about with clarity and psychology. And third is with systems. Once you have the clarity and the psychology dialed in and you dial it as a system, becomes easier for you to sell. But selling apart, two things I want to make sure people take away from today's episode is everybody thinks that they have nothing interesting to say or how can they add value or why would people even listen to them? Think about this one, something that Sherry just said. Everybody has a story, and the beauty of that story is it's so unique to you. Nobody has lived that life but you. You are so unique. All you have to do is to have conviction in what you are sharing. And then you share like a 10.0 version of yourself. And you don't shy away from sharing yourself with the world. And second, you guys, it has never been B2B, B2C. It's always been H2H, which is human to human connection, which is what Sherry has said like 5 times already. Create that connection. Don't sell and then make them trust you. You build that trust and then they can buy from you, right? You're here to serve. You're here to provide the value. And if you see someone has a problem that you have a solution for, it's your moral obligation to go sell that thing to them because it's going to provide a solution to the problem they've been dealing with. And you want to help them. That's why you're here. So really, really great conversation there, Sherry. Third thing I want to ask you is, we have talked about some real world examples. And one of the things I really admire about your work is how your systems never feel robotic, which is the number one problem we have with AI. And this is the number one concern I also hear from people who want to work with me, is they have the fear that if they put any AI agent in place, or any system in place where the founder's time is being replaced by an AI system, it's going to feel robotic. So when you put your systems in there, and I know because we've been working on something together, they feel tailored, almost like a one-on-one conversation, and yet they also scale. So think about something so manual that it feels like someone is sitting in front of the computer and talking to you, yet it also scales. Can you walk us through a real example of how you've built that kind of automation, something that still brings in 50 plus qualified leads a month but doesn't lose the human touch? How does that work?
Oh, goodness. Okay. Now, this is the really good stuff. I'm trying to figure out which example should we go into, because I love this topic, Artie. It is so powerful. And it really does address a common objection that people might have when it comes to now bringing on AI. And I'll give us two examples here. So can we talk about the project we're working on? Just because, okay. So we're going to
sorry, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but you guys are getting behind the curtain scene here, and this is probably first time you're talking on camera, but yeah, I mean, I would love for you to do that, and thank you for doing that on my show. I'm honored.
Okay. Well, it's because there was so much emotion behind it, and that's why I want to share it. Okay. So I'm going to be super candid, just really raw here. So Artie and I are working on a project together that uses how I think about conversion messaging and persuasion messaging, and how it can help others with how they reach out to their contacts. And so with this tool, we've been testing it, we've been tweaking it, we've been looking at it, and it's AI powered, but it's all through my IP and how I talk about what I just mentioned about psychology and clarity and persuasion techniques. All of that use brought together and powered by AI. And just that statement alone is a beautiful thing. But to give you a real example, a true real example, this week I was testing the tool and I was getting ready to send out an email to my beta testers on the tool. So we're beta testing the tool. It's an AI powered email improvement tool for conversions. Okay. And it's not even on the market yet. So we're still testing it. But when I was testing the tool, Artie, this week, I was writing an email to my own beta testers and my husband was like, why don't you put it through your tool so you can fix your emails? I was like, oh yeah, let me do that. So I put my copy that I wrote myself, not ChatGPT, but I took it and I put it into this tool that we are building together, Artie and I. And the tool brought this next level of emotion. And I literally got emotional from it because I thought my copy was great, but I used the tool. Mind you, the tool is backed by my IP. This is sort of my frameworks and ideals and all this inside the tool, but it took the email to a level that I didn't have available in me at the moment. It was late at night when I was writing. I wasn't accessing the frameworks that I know that I should have, or the emotion that I needed to have in this email, but the tool was able to do it for me. And I wrote in our feedback document that the tool accessed an emotional level of emotion that I couldn't access at the moment because of where I was at the moment. And I got emotional from it. And I was like, I think this is the best email that I've written. And then I clicked off of it. I was like, where is this email? I needed to go back to it. But my point of sharing that story is that even though the email tool that we're creating together is based on my IP, I wasn't in the headspace to share the high level expertise that I needed in this other email, and the tool did it for me. The tool was able to capture what I really wanted to say, and I think I put in the feedback doc, it gave my voice the emotion it needed, and it really helped me. It was such a helper for me in the time where I couldn't access that level of emotion. That's the email that I wanted to share and send to my beta testers. So that was such a helpful realization, and I wrote down, well, this is the magic in the tool. This is the magic of AI with human strategy behind it. that's the moment right there that we all need to embrace. You don't have to have you don't have to have a on the sidelines of AI. You coexist and co-create with AI to create a moment like that where I felt emotional because it helped me access something that I didn't have at that time. So thank you for that, Artie. And that is just one of many examples of how we're able to bring in AI on top of the strategy that we have to really accelerate our businesses, connect with our audience, compel them to take action, follow your CTAs, yes, and continue moving along. You can make a difference with AI. And I know this is going to be an amazing tool. Stay tuned for it. It's coming.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sherry. If people, and that's what I keep telling everybody, if you're not building that leverage for yourself with technology, it's 2025. Like, what the heck are you doing? And that's what fulfills me with the work that we do as a team is it gives when I hear success stories and testimonials and the emotions like this, that's when I know what we are doing is we're doing something right with our time and in our company is because we're giving an entrepreneur time back on their calendar. So there are moments in a day when you are a 10.0 version of yourself. But think about this. You're not a 10.0 version of yourself when you're putting your kids to bed at night. I want the tech to be there working for you as your sales team when you're ready to go to bed. And that's how we're building leverage for all our clients. And Sherry just shared it so beautifully. I could have not said that better than yourself. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm honored that you shared that on our show.
Me too. Thank you for being there. I think this is a dream come true. And we all really need to embrace that. Like Artie has the not only the competency and the aptitude for it, she has the methodologies for the entire thing. It is going to be really big. I mean, the future is so huge, and I'm excited to see what you can accomplish, what we accomplish if we combine our skill sets with tooling and automation and AI to really do amazing things. But it's like I said in the beginning, it starts with the business problem. It starts with your customer. And when I say starts with your customer, this tool already started when my customers, I think you know the story, they were asking me to like change their subject line or they're asking me to critique their subject line. And I was away on a business trip. And I was like, I'm too busy, right? I don't have the time. Right. I don't have the time to critique your subject line. So I think I woke up at like 5 a.m. just to work on their subject line and I was exhausted. And so now we have a tool like this to support us. And like you said, leverage our expertise in a way that's scalable. So that's awesome. That's the power of it. And that's what we all need to embrace.
Absolutely. And if anybody were to sit down and do that manually, it would take them at least a few minutes, if not a couple of hours, to really polish the email to get to the where and what they want to say, what emotion and what is the tonality. But guess what? This tool does that for you under 3 seconds, which is where the brilliance is. And I don't want to spoil too much, and that's why we get excited. And of course, Sherry's excited too. So I'm happy that she shared it. So Sherry, if we zoom out a little bit, this is the last question before we wrap up the show. Where do you think this is all heading? What is one shift you think smart founders who value their time, they want to build the leverage, or B2B marketers for that matter, need to make in the next 6 to 12 months to stay ahead of how their buyers are evolving in this age of AI?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say to absolutely commit to having, I almost want to call it a core funnel or some process on the front end that they build out. Think about it manually first, strategize it with your team, create a core acquisition, nurture, version process. Everyone needs to have at least one core one that you can spin off of. This is bare bones. Most people don't even have one. So let's create a process to take people from the top all the way to the bottom, and let's align on that. And then on top of that, let's figure out how to scale that and automate that using some of these tools, systems, and processes. Like you're going to still use these automations and tools, but you want to make sure you understand it from that ground level of how your customer comes to learn about you. So have a core funnel. And when you're thinking about your messaging, when you're thinking about how you communicate, make sure that you meet your customer where they are. Do not give them a demo CTA if they've never heard you before, or if they've been around, if they've been on a demo. You know, like, don't say, hey, just checking in, and if I can be of service to you, just let me know. You can have more conversion structures inside of that, and if you need help, you can go to the tool. We'll give it to you later on. But I think about how you communicate, but think about having a process on the front end. So that way we're not just throwing things at the wall. We're not just checking boxes. You have a plan on the front end to bring people in, to nurture people, to convert people. And there's lots of ways to do that. Artie's does that, helps her clients do that with automation and AI, and use what's best. And if you don't know what to say, here's a really great tip. Ask them, hey, what's the biggest pain point that you're having right now? And literally just record it. Don't even write it down. Just record
There
it.
we go.
And then don't even change the words. That's your marketing. Use that. That is your marketing. So if you want to convert people and you don't have a tool, you can't find my tool, then just listen to your customer and write down their words verbatim on what their pain points are, and then use that back in your marketing inside of how you're sending out your emails or your posts or even some of your long form content. So those are the things I think about. Be really customer centric and you'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah. You wake up and show up to provide value for free. Why wouldn't anybody want to work with you? Like it's so we tend to complicate the simple things in life, right? And I really want people to double click on one thing that Sherry said. Really, guys, take notes here. I've done this in my own business too. I no longer ask them to send me emails or whatnot. I make their life so easy. I just tell them, you send me a voice note, I'll analyze and I'll process it. And guess what? That's how you capture their voice. This is one of the things we do really well in our AI audit as well. And I'm going to use that as an example. I have them give a 60-minute live call with me where I capture their voice, and it's in voice format. Because when it's voice, you can tell how passionate they were talking about certain topics versus the other. And then so that's qualitative data that you can collect, right? And then I asked them to send me an intake form, which is quantitative. And then I asked them some other pieces of information too. When you combine all that data, you cannot go wrong because you've captured what they want from different angles. You're going to show up to them like nobody else on the market. They would love working with you. And that's why we're selling AI audits. And that's how, not just why, it's also how we're selling them fast. So thank you for sharing that, Sherry. So most people would pay hundreds of dollars for the advice that you've shared for free on this podcast. So I really want to show our gratitude here for sharing all that insanely valuable knowledge, but for free. Now, after listening to this, I'm sure people want to get in touch with you, know about more about the tool and all the work that you're doing in B2B marketing space. So where can they find you, and what is the next step that they can take towards working with you?
Yeah, so you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an instant message there, DM. You can also find me at growthlanestrategies.com. And I know we talked about the tool today. If you are looking for a tool that will help with your emails, then feel free. Then you can probably, by the time this airs, it'll be ready for you to check out. So it was great being on your show. Thanks so much for having me, Artie.
Of course, it was a fantastic conversation, and I know people are going to get a lot of value out of it. So thank you everybody who made to the end of the show, and we're going to be back here again next week and with more guests, and I'm so excited for you guys to listen to more guests, and also just leave it in the comments what resonated on today's episode. What is one thing that you needed to hear that you think will help you take your business to the next level? We're really curious, and And Sherry's awesome. I'm going to bring her back on the show in a few more weeks and see how the tool is performing and all that good stuff. I cannot wait to hear. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.